Now I'm going to introduce Sherry Sylvester. She is the Quality Assurance Administrator, and Mr. Jeff Castor, the State Transportation Landscape Architect, and they will present to you some of the changes to the PPM in Chapter 9.
Yes, I'm Sherry Sylvester with the State Specifications and Estimates Office, and I'm presenting on the changes to Chapter 9 and Volume 1 of the PPM for Community Aesthetic Features. These changes are from recommendations by the Roadway Aesthetics Community of Practice, and I facilitate this group, and Frank Sullivan leads this team. The community aesthetic features are one type of community features covered in Chapter 9. There are new evaluation criteria for community structures and public art, effective with the 2013 PPM. There's also a new approval process. Please refer to Chapter 9 for the new criteria, the approval process, and the required documentation. The changes in criteria from the previous PPM include renaming community structures to now be a specific type of community aesthetic features called local identification markers standalone. Also, public art is included as a type of community aesthetic feature. There are 4 categories of community aesthetic features. 2 categories for public art, should be standalone and add-on affixed, and 2 categories for local identification markers, stand-on, alone, and add-on affixed. The local identification marker standalone, as I stated before, actually is the replacement to the old community structures, which was found in the previous PPM version. The last category, the local identification marker add-on affixed and the public art add-on affixed, are both allowed on locally owned bridges or transportation elements, and there'll be some variations with that, but let's go on and look at some of the examples. Excuse me, it skipped ahead. These are the examples. The first example is public art examples, the left being standalone, add-on affixed being on the right, the left being statues, and the right being mosaics or murals and those type of add-on features. Again, the right only being per the criteria allowed on locally owned bridges. For the local identification markers, here are some examples. The left, again, the standalone is the community structures, and the add-on affixed on the right are name lettering or other type of identification in some fashion by the local agency. A little bit more information about community aesthetic features. The criteria applies to requests by local agencies to place features on FDOT-owned right-of-way. This criteria shall also apply to on-system installations included as part of a local agency program project or aesthetic installations included in the design of an FDOT project. There's also a new community aesthetic feature agreement, which is required to grant approval for the local agency to place their feature on FDOT-owned right-of-way or a transportation system structure, like a bridge. The criteria prohibits placement of local agency aesthetic features on FDOT-owned bridges, as I stated previously. However, there's a variance exception process in place for approving deviations from the published criteria. Frank Sullivan is the point of contact in the central office for handling and routing these requests for approval for deviations from the criteria. So to recap, community aesthetic feature installations for public art and local ID markers are to be evaluated for compliance with the new requirements in the 2013 PPM. The new community aesthetic feature agreement is required to facilitate approval of all local agency requests. And a local agency resolution is required as part of the agreement, as is the inclusion of the maintenance responsibilities of the feature owner. However, when an aesthetic feature is included on a LAP project or FDOT project, the approval documentation may vary to address the needs of the specific contract, which includes the work to construct or install the feature. An agreement for who will maintain the aesthetic feature and surrounding site must be in place. And just to let you know, there will be a webinar scheduled as part of the weekly webinar series offered by the Office of Design to walk through the new process and to walk through completing the new agreement. An announcement will be sent which will include an invitation to the webinar once a date is known. At this time, and before taking any questions, I'd like to transition over to Jeff Castor, the State Transportation Landscape Architect, and he will be presenting on the changes in Chapter 9 related to landscaping.
Go ahead to the next slide. Hi, everybody. We're just going to have one slide for you. And what you'll find in Chapter 9, we've made some, what I'm referring to as incidental revisions to the chapter that were just made while we were making changes to the chapter to include the community features section. And we found some errors, we found some things that we could make corrections to that just made it easier to understand. And so things have been reorganized and reshuffled in Section 9.1, but you won't find any real substantive changes there. In Section 9.2, you will see the addition of sections dealing with irrigation design, and previously the chapter was nearly silent on irrigation, but now you'll find a section which I'm not going to go through today because I don't think there's a whole lot of irrigation designers listening in right now, but we are providing additional guidance and direction for irrigation design, and also in Section 9.2.1 you'll find the same. There you'll find additional information about what we're asking what information we're asking the designer to provide regarding our expectations for how the irrigation system is going to be maintained. You'll see at the bottom of this slide I've got it written out when the landscape and irrigation system is to be maintained by the department, and then we're looking for a maintenance cost estimate. This is something new. I'm unaware of any landscape irrigation systems on our entire state system that are maintained by the Florida Department of Transportation. There's probably a few of them out there, but it's not common. People think it's not done. Forward, it may become more common. There are some projects that the department would like to see built out there, some landscape projects, and they will need to be maintained, and there is not a local agency available to take over responsibility for the irrigation system. So we will be asking our designers to give us an indication of the cost to build the irrigation system and to maintain the irrigation system. And with that, I'm about done. Thanks.
Are there any questions?